Welcome to the February 24th, 2022 Inspiring Author Conversations. I'm Kathy Davis with Davis Creative Publishing Partners, and today we'll be speaking with Jennifer Waller about keeping your audience engaged beyond your book. Before we welcome Jennifer, real quick, I just want to go over some of the reminders. The call is being recorded, and you'll receive a link to YouTube video within about 48 hours. Your attendance at these meetings serves as your permission to be seen in the recordings. Please mute yourself on your end, not Jennifer, and to avoid any background noise. Find your chat button down at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions, please drop them into the chat box, and Julie and I will be watching the chat box to make sure that we get all those questions answered. We promise to end the call around noon or shortly thereafter, so we can all get back to business. If we have a lot of questions and a lot of interaction, we might go to 12:15 at the latest, but I promise we'll be off by then. So Jennifer, I met Jennifer through Jeannie, and Jeannie's also on the call. Jennifer is a self-published author who also works with PenPower Book Marketing in Santa Fe, New Mexico. She released her first self-published novel in 2012 to eventual flop. However, through her work managing blogs and newsletters for other successful speakers and authors, she learned that releasing the book is only the first milestone. Long-term success depends on how well an author keeps their audience engaged. She relaunched her author career under a pen name in December of 2019 with a plan that included a mailing list and rapid release strategy. Is now on the path to being a full-time author. Welcome, Jennifer. I can't wait to find out more about that book. So let's jump right in and start with, how do we keep our audience engaged beyond the book? What was one of the first things you learned?
One of the first things I learned really was you need to engage them almost immediately. And that's why I wanted to just start with the mailing list. In that, what your audience, they're hot reading your book. You know, they're coming in, that is your time to strike. If you have an audience beforehand, that's even better. But your time to strike, if your reader is brand new to you, is right at the end of your book. And that's, you know, come to my website, sign up for my mailing list. Because you can't engage the reader once they've left.
Now, the book genre that we're referring to here, I believe your book was a novel, correct?
I've got 20 novellas out now.
Awesome.
So that's the rapid release strategy, is releasing about one a month.
And so as we have our conversation this morning, because I know we have both fiction and nonfiction authors on the call and others that will be listening later, let's make sure that we kind of cover both, whether it's applicable to one or the other or both. And so with your particular history of your book, what was it that you did the second time that you didn't do with the first one that was much more successful?
I think it was just, you know, a bunch of things converging at once. I picked for my fiction book, I kind of picked a less competitive niche, I should say. It's still a very common, you know, it's in the romance genre, but it's a little bit less crowded of a space. I kind of lucked out, but I came in, like I said, I came in with a plan because I'd watched so many successful authors and speakers, you know, kind of do these things. So they would come in, they'd have their mailing list so they could capture their readers right away. They had solid websites, and they could bring readers in that way as well. They, you know, they just made it easy to hit those readers as soon as they came out.
So now, did you have a list already when you started?
No, nope. So I published, and I let some of my followers on a particular social media website know, and that was all up from there. So it was just a matter of, you know.
How did you entice them to join up on a list?
So
or a book? Yeah.
So this will be different for fiction authors versus nonfiction. For fiction authors, I say it depends on where you're at in your publishing journey. If you're pre-pub, you're going to want to do cover reveals, behind the scenes. Maybe, if you're going through editing and this chunk is just not worth it, hey, my newsletter subscribers might like this, deleted scene. As you're going into post pub and you're trying to get new people to join in, I like to, and this will be for both fiction and nonfiction, you want to do what's called a reader magnet. It's going to be the easiest way. And a reader magnet is a giveaway. So my reader magnets are more novellas. I have 2 novellas. If they sign up from a link in the back of my book, in my back matter, they can get a free novella. And then they are on my mailing list and I can mail them whenever I release a new book.
So are all of your novellas ebooks?
Yes.
Okay. So that
I do
link
have,
is live then in the back of the ebook. Yeah.
Exactly. And I actually do have a couple printed now as well, but for the most part, they're all ebooks.
Mm-hmm.
And so the link is live and they can go and they can get that, like I said, we're striking when the iron's hot. They've just finished the story. Here's a link for another book. All you have to do is give me your mailing list information or your email.
Mm-hmm.
And it works. Very rarely do I have somebody just download and then get off the list again. It does happen. And I'm like, you know what? They're still reading what I'm writing. So I'm gonna take that as a win. For fiction authors, once again, you're striking while the iron is hot. You're going to want to give them a discussion guide, maybe a worksheet, something that they can take and they can action, they can turn the points from your book into actionable things. If you're writing a self-help book, here are 10 steps to creating a wellness environment, something like that, so that they can put that into practice, and have something again, because you're just
Share valuable info. Yeah.
exactly.
Can you backtrack real quickly for a second and define what is a novella? And spell it for us. Spell it for us, please.
So to me, a novella is you're in the shorter. There are, distinctions. Some people will say short, novelette, novella, novel. To me, the novella is, anything 30,000 and under. And a novel is 50,000 and above. The 30 to 50 can be a short novel, but it depends on which website you look at, because they'll all kind of slush around. So I just, I tend to be in the 15 to 30,000 range. Mm-hmm. So my reader magnets tend to be in the 15,000 in, and my release tend to be closer to the 30,000, depending on which series I'm writing for. Some series I'll stay in certain word counts.
Gotcha. So the short definitions, it's a short novel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So I didn't mean to interrupt. So
nope, that's fine.
So those are some great ideas for how to start my list. And once I have that list, what do I do with it? So
what you want to do once you have that list is you want to give them content on a regular basis. Not too often, but enough to kind of keep them around. So once you've got them, what do you put in your newsletter? I'd say, I always say that you want to be conservative to start off with rather than overly ambitious. So if you want to say, I want to send a newsletter to my subscribers 1 time a month, that's perfectly acceptable. If you want to be 1 time every 2 months, you might want to go once a month, but that's still fine. What you don't want to do is 3 times a week and turn them off because they're hearing from you nonstop for 2 or 3 months and then drop off the face of the earth. Yeah. It's better to have a consistency.
So as an author, what do I put in my newsletter?
So once again, it's going to differ for fiction and nonfiction. For fiction authors, once again, behind the scenes, because with fiction, you want that newsletter to help you transition to your next novel. So behind the scenes, I always just put, because I've released so rapidly, I've got the next book out. But behind the scenes cover reveals, those snippets. For nonfiction authors, you're going to be a lot of the same, but very different as well. This is what I'm working on for my next novel, but also you want to push people to your blogs, to your websites. Are you a guest on a podcast? What date and where can you have them tune in? Are you in a newspaper article? Where can they find you elsewhere to see? Because if you're a nonfiction author, they are there for your expertise. So you want to tell them where they can find your expertise.
Mm-hmm. I know one of our novelists, and we only do maybe 4 to 6 novels a year for our authors, but one of them really was trying hard to get into book clubs. And so she was constantly asking everybody she knew, do you know anybody in a book club? Do you know anybody in a book club? And I know one of the things that she did in her email outflow was top 10 questions to ask about the book in your book club. And she even had that printed up on like a little bookmark. And so every time she met somebody that was in a book club, she was handing out those bookmarks. That was her business card, so to speak, with her website on it. Yeah, a way to get more people on her list. Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, exactly. You do need to get the people onto your list because it's how you reach your readers. Once again, you're striking when the iron's hot to get them on that list, but you don't want them to forget about you afterwards. So
right. So now it sounds to me like you've had that one novel and then several novellas. And is that a typical path for a novelist?
I think my path is a little bit wonky because I did try and I thought, I made that mistake a lot of authors make in the beginning, excuse me, that they're going to, have a bestseller out of the gate. It's just so good. And they don't think about that you actually have to go out and find your audience. It's a very competitive market. And you have to go find your audience and bring them to you. Mm-hmm. And I did the thing, going to the bookstores and trying to get local bookstores to carry my books, but it's incredibly difficult. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did back in 2012 when I first self-published a novel. This time I came in, I knew, who I was talking to on my social media channels to hit the very first sales, but now almost all my sales are from people finding me on Amazon, from my mailing list. I send it out and I get, my sales immediately because they're finding me, they're pushing me up the charts. And then more people are finding my book because I've got this organic sales pipeline going.
Got a great question from Patty. She's curious, with a monthly release of novellas, are they written with the same characters? Is it a continued story?
So for me, with my rapid release novellas, I'm doing romance series, and each book is a new couple for what I'm writing. So I do have a business plan to transition to full-length novels in the same genre here within the next few months. But my business plan coming into it was to have enough novellas to have a solid back catalog to transition when I was making enough solid income to be able to make that move.
Do novelists ever compile those novellas? Let's say you've got 30, and do they ever compile them into one book as a collection, and then that's another way to market them?
Yes, you can do a box series. It's not something you do very quickly though, because you don't want to steal the thunder from your individual books. So a box series comes, I still haven't done mine because I'm still making enough from the individual books that it's not worth it to do it quite yet. You want to do it when your sales start to flatline, because when you're doing a box set, what happens is you tend to give a price discount, to make that very appealing. Yeah. So you don't rush into that, and some people want to rush into that.
Awesome. So I want to remind everybody that if you do have a question, please drop it into the chat. And so we've talked about newsletters, we've talked about creating our list. Now, I know that also a lot of authors have a blog. How do you use a blog and a newsletter? What's the difference? Is there a difference? How does that work?
So one way, especially for nonfiction authors to use their newsletter, is to announce that they have a new post on their blog. Um, so the reason we like newsletters, and especially combined with blogs, is a newsletter with your robust email list is the only way that you can directly reach your readers on your schedule. Social media, you're waiting for the algorithm to maybe display your post, and maybe you get a bit more if you pay. If it's just on your website, you're waiting for your readers to come to you. With newsletter, you're sending out, hey, I've got new content for you. And that helps, drive that engagement when you want it. So I like combining it with blogs because then I have new content and it's on my blog. I like to do a little bit of like a one teaser paragraph.
Mhm.
In that instance, here's what you can look for to go to my blog to read more. It helps your traffic. The traffic and the new content both help your SEO. So you're giving your website a boost, you're engaging your readers all at once.
And you're adding that link. So in your newsletter, you'll do a little couple sentences, a short paragraph that maybe to lead into your blog, and then read more here. And then they click on that and it takes them to the full blog.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Now what to put in the blog? It can be, you want to stay, once again, we're going to talk about consistency. You want to kind of stay on brand. If your book is about self-healing, you don't want to send them to a blog talking about animal dentistry or something absurd. So you want to kind of stay in your lane. Now you can branch out some for, tangential and related topics, but, don't come out of left field with something. So what to put in your blog? It's probably already at hand. Did you have a great discussion about your meditation practices and your books about meditation and self-healing? Well, your meditation practices, even if it was in your book, you can do some highlights for your blog. One of my favorite podcasts, every year they have what's called a bookmarks episode, where it's all the little snippets of information that they found in their research that didn't make it to an episode, but it's still very worthwhile information. So you can write a blog of, this is something I found that my readers might find interesting. There's information all around. Is there a new development, something in your field that it's brand new information? Come at that and, and create a blog about that. There's information all around us that we don't realize other people want to hear. So it's just, focusing on this. Am I asked this question a lot? I am asked this question a lot. How can I channel this into usable content? I can write a blog with it.
There's a author, she used to live in London, and about a year ago, she moved to Paris. And somehow I stumbled on her blog years ago, and her nickname is Nessie, which is short for Vanessa. And her blog is, if you just Google Messy Nessie. So this is a brand that she has created. And this is, I'm sure there's probably some Americans that have done something this amazing also, but I just find her content amazing. She is an author, but I didn't know she was an author just because her blog was so fascinating. But then through the blog, I realized, oh, this woman's an author. But she'll post something because part of her blog is just finding interesting things around the globe. And apparently in her book, she also talks about interesting, off the wall, like, the hidden library that was found in Paris that was originally built during World War I. I mean, it kind of in a sense has a distant connection to a book and has a distant connection to her brand, which is apparently she's very ADHD, so it's pretty scattered all over, and her blog is too, but that's her brand. So it just kind of, it doesn't always talk. It took me forever probably at least 6 months till I figured out, oh, she's an author. And I just started tapping into it because she every now and then would say something about books that I found pretty fascinating. So the content that I see in a lot of author blogs may not specifically talk about one of their books, but it talks about the brand of the author. And a lot of that, as you mentioned earlier, is getting in touch with what that brand platform for you is as an author. And for Nessie, it happens to be messy. So, but if you get a chance and go Google her, Messy Nessie, it's a lot of fun stuff. So are there any, I know you have a lot of personal experience. Are there any stories that you may want to share about, and you don't have to give names or anything like that, about people that you've worked with who have found success in a particular genre or in a particular thing that they did that was fun to watch them go through it?
I think I don't have any stories because I mostly came on board later with professionals who had established routines, that established, their audience already. But it's, the nice thing is always seeing, how they stay in their messaging, over years. It's I think it can be hard for authors to realize that messaging, even if you feel like you're repeating content, sometimes you have new readers all the time, and they're not going to go back 5-6 years on your blog. So you always have to say that you have new readers all the time who are just, you published your book in 2015, but Jane Doe picked it up yesterday. So you can't say when somebody's going to read your book, and you still want to be current, especially for nonfiction, because you're channeling this into clients, you're channeling it into a speaking career. So you want to still be considered a thought leader. So don't make these readers, dig through 6 years of blogs. And that's another way to find a blog. Did I write a great post that's still relevant today, but I wrote it in 2017? Don't make them
repurposing that content and updating a little bit. Yeah. So there's a great question on the chat. What social media platforms have been most successful in promoting your particular book?
So for my particular books, when I got started off, I was using Tumblr a lot, and I had a very good audience of people who were very supportive of what I was writing at the time. But that was a very niche thing. Once again, I think that where you're going to go is going to depend on where you're comfortable being and who your audience is. And I say where you're comfortable being because with social media, it's better to choose one platform that you are extremely comfortable on and can be active on than to try and be everywhere at once and active on none.
I love that. Yeah.
So if you're on LinkedIn all day, every day as an attorney, let's say, and you have your professional contacts and you're writing, your book on either a legal thriller or, interesting case studies, then that's where you're going to be. You're going to say, hey, I wrote a book. You're not going to hop over to Twitter where you don't have an audience. So you want to be where you are on social media is where you're going to be the most successful, because that's where your audience is.
And a really good example, so like Kim Carr, who's on the call today, you're a fantastic writer and people look forward to your Facebook posts. So as you move forward and start writing this book about Dandelion the chicken, that's where people want to hear about it. And they know you there. They look for your post because they want to see what's new on the farm this week. So that would be the first place for Kim to start.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Social media, and this is what I find so often that people forget when they think about marketing on social media.
Oh, hopefully she comes back.
The first word of social media is social. Media and focus more into social. And that means, scaling back to where you can be that social person. And I'm getting a connection is unstable error, so I'm sorry if I'm dropping out.
It was only a little bit. We got you back though. That's the important part.
So yeah, I tend to hop around social media because I'm an aficionado. So I try out a site here, I try out a site there. That's not for everybody. Pick where you want to be, and that's where you're going to start. And if you're comfortable there and branching out later is fine. But once again, you don't want to be overly ambitious to start and then get yourself in a rut where you're trying to do too much and crash and burn.
And get lost. Yeah. So Kim, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question, that would be great.
Yeah, Jennifer, I wonder if I'm doing myself a disservice because like Kathy said, I do post a lot on Facebook and I do have a nice following and stuff, but I wonder if, would it be for historical record or whatever and stuff, would it be better for me to create a post and put it on my website, on my blog, and then share that to social media? Or, so that I have like a history on Facebook? It's real hard to go back and find things again I'm finding and stuff. So I'm just wondering, I want to make it as easy as possible, but I want to reach as many people as possible. And on Facebook, I do have a good size following.
So I think that go ahead and creating a blog is a good idea. And the reason for this is Facebook likes to limit your reach, and it's a platform that you don't control. You control your website, but Facebook controls your reach. It controls how it's going to show your post to your followers. So like you said, it's hard for you to go back and find that post you were looking for. But if it's on your website, it's always there. You can say, hey, check my website for older articles. And that way your followers know that they can go there. There's nothing wrong with cross-posting, even though, once again, you're going to want to do a snippet teaser rather than the full post. But you want to have your most valuable content where you can control it. And Facebook wants to, some pages only get 2% of their audience organically, and they want you to pay to get 10, 15%. So you're losing people that, Facebook is just not showing it to. So it's better to have it where you can find it easily and where your followers can go and find it.
Another good point in what you just said, Jennifer, is that you want your blog to be a part of your website. So often I'll run across someone who will have a website and then they've created this blog out here on some other medium. And it's like they have two different entities. You want your blog to be on your website in that way, because you're driving traffic to your website. And so, no, that's awesome. So if in looking back in the history that you've had with your book, what does your typical marketing week look like?
My typical marketing week is, I do silent releases too, which is bad for me. I need to start moving into doing pre-orders, but I'm writing so fast that, it's just a process, just get it done. So for me, my marketing, week kind of begins when I press publish. I might have done in a week before because I'm doing TikToks now as well. So maybe the week before I'll have done a cover reveal or something just for fun. Sometimes I don't do it at all. But my marketing begins when I press publish. I go and I schedule out my email newsletter for the same day that once I know that it's hitting the stores or hitting Amazon, I schedule it out. About the only thing I do in advance is I schedule out the book prior in the series. I will schedule to go free that same day or the day before, because I have the Amazon exclusivity, so I can do that. And what I'll do is I'll schedule the book directly previous in the series. I'll schedule to go free either that day or the day before, and I'll submit that to the big newsletter sites like Fussy Librarian is my favorite, and that way the subscribers to that newsletter, which is, if you're not using those, they are a compilation newsletter where thousands upon thousands of people subscribe to get daily emails about free or discounted books. So, and it costs authors to list in them, and some sites can be very fussy about who they will, accept. BookBub is like the greatest of all time. It's the GOAT, but it's extremely hard to get a featured deal there. So what I'll do is I'll submit to a newsletter. Then I'll have the book previous in the series going free. And my reasoning for that is people are getting this book for free, the one before where it's already started to lag down a little bit in the sales, pops that one up, and then they see the next book in the series is now available. So that's my reasoning for that. That's part of my marketing strategy. I hit that also with my newsletter. And then really it's just a matter of, kind of watching things, if I'm seeing sales aren't where I want them to quite to be, I might post on social media. If they're doing really well, I might also post on social media and say, look where we're at, we're doing great. But really, I'm fairly hands off when it comes to my actual marketing, because I'm letting this process kind of do itself, leading from the previous book to the new book, and with my newsletter, just kind of all fueling it together.
So one of the things that we kind of touched on a little bit earlier between that you mentioned again a second ago was blog and newsletter, and having the blog on the website, which helps the SEO. What's important about this whole SEO thing with authors?
Okay, SEO is short for search engine optimization, for those who don't know. And it's a very old thing. Back in the day, it was, just Google scanning your site for keywords, important links, but it's changed a lot over the years. However, good content will never go out of style. You want good content on your site, and you want regular updates to your site. Google rewards good content with regular updates, no matter what else is changing in the SEO world. If you're really into SEO, you're going to want to find an SEO specialist, but nothing can trump good content and regular content, because Google, all the search engines, they love to see that your website is active, maintained on a regular basis. So that's a great thing about blogs, is you're hitting your keywords with, with your content, you're keeping it fresh. The readers like it, and the search engines like it.
So if Kim decides to use the phrase, my chicken is my pet, and someone goes out there and Googles chicken as pets, the goal is to have her name, her book, her story pop up in the Google search.
Exactly.
That's how SEO helps you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome.
So, and there's things that can also punish you too, though. You don't, if you're wanting chicken as pets, you don't, hide somewhere in the text about goats as pets, unless you're talking about goats, because then Google will say, but you don't have goats as pets content over here.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, you want to hit your appropriate keywords, but you don't want to, use any tangential keyword that is not applicable, because then Google can say, you're kind of doing some squirrely stuff there.
We are controlled between Google and Amazon, I'll tell you. So one of the things, I understand you have a gift for our audience today. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So we created a downloadable from PenPower, and it's just, the different things that you can do to first find new readers and engage the readers you already have. So things you wouldn't think about, have your book cards, have your business cards and bookmarks that you can hand out, because you want to hit, once again, strike while the iron is hot. One thing that a lot of authors don't think about, maybe as soon as they should, is you're going to want an elevator pitch. If you're stuck in an elevator with somebody and they say, what do you do? I'm an author. Well, what do you write about? Well, I write about X. If
Have that ready. Yeah.
Have that ready, because if you have to sit and think about it, you've lost the moment. So your elevator pitch, your tagline.
And what
things like
will,
that.
yeah, what we'll do for everybody on the call is, you'll receive a new email in about 48 hours that will have the link to today's call, and we'll include that link in there, as well as whatever links you've given us for people to reach out and contact you or Jeannie personally. And so what is your parting wisdom today for authors as it pertains to marketing and telling people about their books?
I think I'm going to go on a little bit of a weird one here.
Yay.
And one thing I had a note in my notes that that we didn't discuss is that the more is better when it comes to your newsletter subscribers. And I'm going to say that's wrong. More is not always better. What you want is an engaged readership, which means occasionally you're going to want to do maintenance on your email list to remove inactive names and people whose email addresses are no longer working. This helps your newsletter actually reach more people, because if Google and Gmail and Outlook start seeing people aren't opening your emails, they'll start slushing them to the spam folder and reporting them as spam. So periodically watch your open rates. If it dips below about 20%, go through, clean up your email list, remove inactive subscribers to keep your mailing list healthy, because a healthy mailing list is much more valuable than a large mailing list.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, it makes me think, Julie, we got to do that.
Yeah, it's not something many people want to talk about, because we want to talk about how many subscribers we have, but how many engaged subscribers do we have?
Yeah,
Because you don't want to end up in spam folders. And since you have to pay for your email list, why are you paying for people who aren't opening your emails?
right. Good point. Good point. You've had a wealth of information today, Jennifer. I'm so glad that you came today. It was a great conversation. I loved it. This is one that we're going to push this out through social media ourselves and make sure that people get to hear this, because it's some wealth of information that applies to all authors, whether it's novels or nonfiction. So I want to thank our live audience guests also for being here. I see some frequent flyers. Thank you for continuing to join us. And we'll see you in 2 weeks on March 10th. Our topic, we'll be talking with Bob Baker. He's well known here in St. Louis, and he also just reached over 1 million viewers on YouTube. So we're going to be talking YouTube and learn about he's again, a prolific author. So I hope to see you on March 10th, and thank you all for being here today, and watch for your email. Yes, Kathy knows Bob. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Jeannie. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.